Let's go right to the phone calls. Jared, Portland, Oregon, Sirius XM 131. Hi, Jared.
Hi, how you doing?
Doing well. How are you?
I'm okay. Just having a rough day. It's funny. I listened to your show, and me and my folks got into an argument. They're atheists. It got into a big argument. I had to call you for advice.
Well, I'm glad you did.
Yeah, I mean, right now they've been trying to force feed me, tell me that the universe is, some billions of years old. They don't think it's only 6,000, and they think they have science on their side, and I need some help. How do I battle that?
Well, first of all, Jared, I wouldn't fall into the trap of thinking that there's a correspondence between atheism and the age of the universe. I mean, there are many fine Christians who believe that the universe is old. In fact, all the evidence in natural revelation points to an old universe, and there's nothing in the Bible that precludes the notion of a universe that is very old. The Bible is really not about the age of the universe. It is about God's unfolding plan of redemption, culminating in a new heaven and a new earth wherein dwells righteousness. So the real question that has to be asked is, can nothing produce everything, as the atheist has to believe? Can life come from non-life? And can the life that comes from non-life produce morals? And the answer to that is no. So there is no problem between faith and reason. The Christian faith is never blind faith, it's faith in evidence. The problem with atheism is that it is a faith that takes a tremendous leap into a dark chasm. It is not based on the realities in the world around us. It is antithetical to the world around us.
Yeah. It's atheism. I mean, it's almost like being trapped in like a dark basement, where my dad would just feed his atheistic beliefs down my throat, and it was hard. It was hard to live with that.
Yeah, I mean, the whole idea that this universe is a function of random chance simply flies in the face of all evidence. But I think that the beauty from your standpoint is to simply continue to fortify yourself with truth. And here's the truth. God created the universe. Jesus Christ rose from the dead. Yes, that's a miracle, but if you have a truly open mind as you do, you have to allow for both natural as well as supernatural explanations for what you encounter in the world in which you live. And you can also know that the Bible's divine as opposed to merely human in origin, and therefore it's a reliable resource. But atheism doesn't give you any hope whatsoever. In fact, if you're an atheist, then everything is just a function of blind chance, material processes. There's no such thing as freedom of the will. And so you have chosen a better path.
And isn't it so true that people in other countries, the only reason like they're starving or even suffering is because God's talking to them. They're just not listening.
Well, we cannot say why particular people in particular parts of the world are facing the difficulties that we do. We do know that in a fallen world, the rain falls on the just and the unjust, and we don't want to put it ourselves in the position of saying, this is that. They are suffering that particular malady because this particular belief is what they hold. But what we can say is that if we hold to a genuinely Christian worldview, then what we will do is not try to answer the why question of necessity, but rather we will minister to the needs of people in the midst of their difficulties. I was spending time with a modern-day Mother Teresa that is literally dealing with people who have severed arms and legs, who suffer from all kinds of physical difficulties, including starvation. And instead of asking the why question or even blaming them and saying that their condition is a result of something that he's there ministering life and truth to them. And as a result, they're being fed, not only physically, but also spiritually. And I think that is a far better thing for us to do, is to meet the needs of the world so that the gospel may be proclaimed, because feeding someone a fish will fill their stomach, but giving them the bread of life will give them a relationship that translates not only in this life, but in the one to come. But here's what you need to do. You need to treat your mom and dad with honor and respect. Realize that you can't talk anyone into the kingdom or change anybody's heart, but what you can do is become so conversant with truth that when you have an opportunity, you can respectfully say to your mom or your dad, have you ever thought of this? For example, one of the things I like to start out with is to say there are only 3 explanations for evil in the world. The pantheists, who say that God is all and all is God, so they have no explanation for evil and good. You have the philosophical naturalists, who are in essence atheists, who believe that everything is a function of natural processes. They cannot distinguish between good and evil, right or wrong, because everything, as you pointed out, Jared, is a simple function of mechanical processes, genetics, brain chemistry, and the like. And therefore, there's no free will, and there's no good or bad, there's no right or wrong. The only acceptable answer to the problem is Christian theism, which says that God created a universe in which people had freedom of choice. He created volitional beings. And as a result of their choices, we live in a fallen world, but out of that world will come the best of all possible worlds. But again, you have to be able to do this with gentleness and with respect. I mean, the one thing you know is they haven't been able to force atheism down your throat. You're not going to be able to force Christian theism down their throats either. What you can do is you can live a life in such a way that Christ shines through you and causes them to thirst for the living water that flows within your being. So you may very well be the one through whom your parents come to faith in Christ, but you may also simply be the one who prays that people and circumstances will come into their lives so that they will come to a true valuation of things.